whenever I'm super busy or I'm not busy, I just feel like I never have enough time for anything anyway. And so I'm like, well, yeah, let's just take on more, because at the end of the day, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you only get done what you get done, and there's never enough time anyway. So do what makes you happy and do what you want to do.
I agree with that statement. It's funny. I think you're right and you're wrong, because my dad, who knows me very well, and we're very close, he mentioned me the other day. He's like, I think you need to create more time in your life. He goes, I think you're too busy. And I respect his opinion. He knows me very well. And I said, well, Dad, if I had more time, what would I fill it with?
Mm.
And I think kind of what you're saying. And then you just fill it with something. So like, and this is just getting super personal, but like, I don't have time to watch shows or watch movies. I mean, there's no time. It's not a priority. Like, my priority would be my family, my kids, my athletic goals that I want to do, travel, and work. Like, you have to say no to stuff. Like, I know you guys aren't heavy drinkers or partiers, neither am I. Like, you have to say no to stuff. You can't do it all, because you will fail at all of it. And again, I do know that I don't know how anyone's an entrepreneur without having ADHD, but like, your brain kind of gets on the dopamine hit. And I'm not saying it's good. I could use a heavy dose. The reason I created the Curious Builder Bootcamp was for me. I didn't know if other people would come, but I created the 2-day workouts, which that's honestly the easy part. It's the no phones, the no alcohol, and off the grid. I tell you what, I've done 2 of them, one in Costa Rica for 4 days and one in Zion National Park. And the hardest thing by far for all these entrepreneurs was to give up their phone, which tells me I'm onto something. Yeah. Like, I couldn't tell you how many people before was like, secretly sending me messages. Mark, I understand that the other builders are giving up their phones. I want you to know that I can't. And I'm just not someone that's going to take that as an example. I'm like, I'm sorry. I actually had to refund a couple. I said, you can't come on the trip. Yeah, I said I respect your decision, but it's that important to me. And the only reason I did it is, and so I, kind of like Misa, who is, I'm bad at predicting what other people will like. I did a spec home in 2008 and I lost my shorts on it. That's the last time I did a spec. So I was gung shy about doing this again. And I've always had the propensity to do things too nice. And that's always, and it still is, my concern. But the problem is that if you cut all the good stuff, you don't, I mean, Nick and I could do a whole podcast on this. It's hard to know how far to go with that. And I don't think anyone gets it 100% right. But I guess my point is like, I wanted to be proud. And for me to be proud, this is what I need to do. Not proud is the wrong word. To be creatively energized.
Yeah, we're fulfilled, right? Like, but the shame of it is that in order to create that fulfillment, and like, I've had this conversation with Nick offline where if you're looking at all of that, like it doesn't necessarily all check out on paper, but you have to look at this from a much bigger perspective as far as what you want to do, what your lot in life is, what your goals are, and not necessarily just the financial aspect of it. And you have to be in a certain position to do that. And I think it's very difficult, and I don't want to undermine that or create this false illusion that you can just say, hey, who cares about money? Just do it and whatever. I want to be fulfilled and I want to be happy with what I do. But there is a certain aspect of it where it's like, it might not always check out on paper. It might not make the money that we need to, but at the end of the day, you have one life. There's things that are really important to you. And if it's not a fulfilling venture for you, then why are you doing? And there's people who get extreme fulfillment out of making money, and that's their biggest priority. And then maybe they want to do the quicker option or the less expensive option, and they want to expand their margins because that's what's fulfilling for them. But for somebody like you or for somebody like Nick, that may not be the number one priority or the biggest part of your program that you're looking to push. You have to balance that. You can't just throw everything out the window, but it's nice to be able to put yourself in a position to be able to do something with your life that is fulfilling and not necessarily just be worried about the bottom dollar.
I 100% agree with you. I think, everyone has different, we talked about that risk profiles. Some people are more comfortable with risk, and sometimes people don't even consider risk. Meaning like, I think to have to not be aware of any sort of risk is very dangerous. And so I think you need people in your life, because the problem is, you get someone like Nick or I, we look at the guy in the mirror, man, that guy in the mirror can sell me anything. And so it's really having people in your life that can help you check and balance. But I think as you get older, hopefully it doesn't mean you're not prone to making mistakes again, because history repeats itself, obviously. But the idea is like, hopefully you're a little wiser each time and you can get perspective. But sometimes you can do everything right and still fail. And sometimes you can do everything wrong. Like, for instance, let's take, let's take this house. Let's say it doesn't sell for 2 years and I lose $2 million on it. Is that a failure, or is it because the market didn't bear it? Like, there's
it's
a number
the cost
of things.
Of tuition.
Yes, that's funny you say that. In 2008, when of course, that was a black swan event with the correction. It took me about 4 years to get out of it. We won't go into that whole story right now, but my dad gave me really good advice. Or actually, it was really funny. But he said, I was complaining to him how expensive it was to get out of that house. And it was the only money to this date, knock on wood, that I ever lost money on. And he said, you got your master's degree in business in half the time and quadrupled the cost. And I've often thought about that. Life can be a good teacher. Life can be a nasty teacher, but hopefully you learn.
And this is like, Tyler and I talk about this all the time. And, our White Oak project is just, you go through these like ebb and flows of like, worrying, right? And I'm very similar to you, Mark, where it's like, listen, this is, I'm doing it. It is what it is. Like, it's going to shake out the way it shakes out, and I'm optimistic that this is gonna work. But then you get someone chirping in your ear that makes you second guess everything. And Tyler's like the one person I will text and and be like, here's how I'm feeling. And we've talked about like the whole a couple things. Number one, like sticking to the plan because it's done, right? And making sure that you don't lose sight of the fact that it's a great marketing tool. But there was one time, probably a couple months ago, and I was just talking about how expensive it was, how much money it cost, the debt, like what this is going to cost to sell and everything. And Tyler texts me, he goes, oh, you know what? I was just checking. Yeah, it looks like America's in $40 trillion worth of debt. So I think you're fine. And I was like,
so funny.
And I was
That's
like,
funny.
Yeah, I guess this is all fake. And he's like, what are you so worried about? And I'm like, yeah, man. And I know like hearing that and saying that out loud is obviously easier to deal with. Like, but at the end of the day, it's, yeah, I mean, we got here. Why can't you can always come back. You like you said, if you lost $2 million on Misahu's, yeah, that would suck. But that doesn't mean like it just stops.
It also doesn't mean it was a failure.
No, not at all.
I would agree. Like, the only caveat to that is I would say it's a failure if you let that control everything else around it. Meaning, like, 100%. We're going to lose $2 million. Marketing stops. I'm no longer proud of this. I'm not going to talk about it. Where it's like, whoa. Everything else was great. Everyone loved the house. You just overpriced. Like, it was overpriced, whatever. Or you couldn't find the buyer in time with the burn. Like, you have to look at everything else as there's so much success that can come out of this. Forget the financial impact of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the danger of people listening to this too is, I think I want to inspire people to be the best version of themselves and to tap into themselves. I've really looked inward in a way that I never have. This sounds really weird, but I don't know how else to describe it. It didn't. I was interviewing Jude Charles, and he was asking me, some interesting questions about how Misahu's came about and the whole story. And it was halfway through that interview, it just dawned on me that this house is a physical representation of like my personality, but also my desire of who I would like to be. It's both lifestyle, but also a reflection of who I am. I think that's true of any of our works. I mean, I don't really consider myself an artist, but in this sense, I've put together a team that has extracted all these things that are important. In the front yard, which you can't see right now, is like a directional arrow sign painted in the Swedish yellow and blue colors of the flag, which is a nod to Misa. But I put on this, like you hike in a trail in Europe or whatever, and has the wood signs at like 5 kilometers to the next village or 20 kilometers to the next glacier or whatever. So I put 5 things that made me who I am on that sign. As it was both a sales sign, but also every time I pulled up to the job site, I wanted to look at that job sign and remember why I'm doing this. And the first one was Glacier National Park. We had a cabin out there for 25 years. The second was Stockholm, Sweden, which was a nod to Misahusen, where we did our honeymoon. Number 3 was Excelsior, which is where my office is, 4.6 kilometers, that way. The other one was the Cottagewood store, which is a nod to this little community that I've just fallen in love with. And then Misahus is like 20 meters away, which is like, the nod was like, this could be your home kind of thing. And so the reason I bring it up is we are constantly evolving. I had this discussion recently. I don't think I had it on a podcast, so this will be the first time. And I think people talk about a midlife crisis. And I think if you look in a movie or a book, midlife crisis, if you were to describe it, is usually where people make bad choices, like they cheat on their spouse, they get divorced, bad things happen, they quit their job, they turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs. Like that's colloquially how I think when you look at a movie or a book, when people say midlife crisis, that's what it is. I actually think it's something different. I think it's when people stop being creative and when people see a dead end and when they stop dreaming and when they stop evolving. Because I think what we're really trying to do is we're trying to evolve into the next version of ourselves. Like, what is the next best? And it actually comes back to your first question. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of death? Because I think if we stop living and if we stop believing we can be a better future version of ourselves. Like I know lots of people. I had a friend of mine, he turned 40, my cousin, Sam. He called me like 3 years ago, I'm 45. And he said, he was so bummed out. He's like, dude, my birthday's coming up. I'm like, buddy, 40s are the best. I said, you know who you are. You have more money than you had in your 20s and 30s for sure, maybe. You probably have kids. Like you have so much more direction. Like I could mop the floor with any Mark Williams previous to 42. I would just destroy him in every capacity, physically, mentally, as a builder. And I say that because it's like, we get better with age. We don't get worse. And so, and even if you're like 75, like my dad the other day, he's doing an Ironman and you'll be like, wow, that's amazing. Over 3 weeks. And so I'm making him a shirt, right? So every day he sends me a text. I swam 500 yards. I walked the dog, 5 miles. I'm like, Dad, that's amazing. Like he's super active. And I just think it's really cool. Like he continues to move the barrier and move the goal in a way that's attainable, but still pushes himself. And I think that is what, when people can evolve and sort of skip the midlife crisis, not skip it, you're evolving, you're changing, you're evolving. And so for me, it's Misahus, it was the Curious Builder, it's Contractor Coalition. So Tyler, I'm not discounting what you said. I likely have too many things in my life. I could use paring down. That being said, those things all feed me so much energy. I get crazy amounts of energy, and you guys have to see all the texts and all the stuff that but that's how I work. That's my fuel. I need that.